Hey, it's Amber, and welcome to Season 3 of Politics But Make It Fashion. Come chat with me. Hey guys, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy Ramadan, and welcome to another episode of Politics But Make It Fashion. Come chat with me. So let's do some updates. I actually have a book reading coming up if you guys are in NEPA. It is local author reading. Join us to learn more about talented authors from the greater Scranton area. This will be held Wednesday, April 10th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And it's going to be at the Albright Memorial Library in Scranton. So come out to that and come see me. I will be reading an excerpt from my book, 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in the VA. So welcome. Let's get into some stuff. So, the State of the Union happened, of course. I thought that Biden did a really good job. I mean, I don't think there was anything, at least for me, that really was a, surprise. I think more people have been talking about the rebuttal more than anything else with Katie Britt, who was talking to us from her kitchen and was crying and laughing at the same time. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. Before Nikki Haley dropped out of the race, she was the first woman to win a Republican primary or caucus. So congratulations, Nikki. I thought that was pretty cool. It didn't really get a lot of press, but you know what? There's women out here, even some that we might not agree with all the way, that are breaking glass ceilings. And that is always good for us women. There is aid that is getting into Gaza. The death toll is still on the rise, around 37,000. The U.S. is dropping more aid. And also the Universal Kitchen is bringing aid in through ships and things like that, fresh meals to Palestine. And the U.S. is also building some harbor ramp thing or something or the other to put aid in, but it's taking a while, and I think it's going to take a couple weeks for them to finish it. So Universal Kitchen came in and said, hey, we can do this faster. So that's still happening. The U.S. is still backing Israel, of course, and, sending a country aid while also being the people who are giving the country who's bombing them weapons and money is, I don't know, a little odd to me, but that's not my business, I guess. Have you guys heard about Haiti and kind of what's been going on there? So it's basically in complete disarray. At this point, the government has kind of fallen apart. The prime minister's gone. And there were a whole bunch of different gangs and militia in Haiti that one gang leader that I guess they're calling Barbecue because allegedly he eats people. There's videos about it, I guess. I don't know. I decided not to descend into that rabbit hole, but you can if you want to. But anyway, he basically kind of called forth all of the gangs to come together and work together to basically overthrow the government. They did a coup, right? And so basically now, BBQ, he is looking to take over the government in Haiti. So Haiti really didn't have a strong military, or like police force. I believe they had about 99,000 police for the entire country. And they didn't have a lot of resources. So there wasn't really a lot of things in place to stop these gangs and militia groups from being able to take over. So once they started working together, it kind of was easy for them to overthrow the country. And people are basically trapped in their homes. Thousands of people have, like, they're killing people, but people are staying in their house so that they're not out on the street to run the risk of just being shot and killed. We don't even have really good numbers of what is going on and good reporting on the ground, kind of how many people are being killed. So you may be asking yourself, Amber, how did this happen? Well, Haiti is a country that relies heavily on aid and imports from other countries like the U.S. You may remember when Haiti had its humongous, massive earthquake, right? And basically a lot of the country was destroyed. Port-au-Prince was basically leveled almost. And that city has never been rebuilt. It is still in the same place it was after the earthquake. And there was a lot of corruption that went on between the aid groups and the people on the ground in Haiti. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Clintons had a foundation that was supposed to be helping to rebuild Haiti. And millions of dollars was raised for Haiti and millions of dollars was given to Haiti, but yet they say not a single home was built. So the people of the country never got the money, never got the aid, weren't really getting the supplies or anything. And, to this day, like, where's the money? What happened? Where did it go? Because it sure didn't help the people. So due to the level of poverty that people live in, as I said, a whole city wasn't built back up. So, like, there's no real economy there. There's no real, like, jobs and different things for people to really be able to take care of their families and themselves and to rebuild their communities. So, as I said, they rely on aid coming in from other countries. So then you have these different militia groups and these different gangs who were in charge of, like, little areas throughout the country, right? So since there wasn't a lot of police, there wasn't a military to really help, a lot of these places were being held hostage. So whatever aid was coming in wasn't getting trickled down to the people anyway. So people are starving. The hospitals everywhere in Haiti are completely overwhelmed with gunshot wounds. There's so many gunshot wounds that they're running out of medical supplies. They already don't have any space, and so they need imports to come in with medical supplies because they don't have any. People are basically trapped in their homes. There's nothing, like, it's not like kids are able to go to school or do anything like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on it to see what's going to happen. And, the U.S. said that they're not sending troops on the ground to Haiti and are kind of just watching this to see what's going to happen. I personally think that if we do end up getting involved in this, it's going to become like a Vietnam, to where you're in the middle of a mess in a country and it's not your business. But on the other hand, the U.S., a lot of Haitians blame the U.S. for the mess that they're in, because the U.S. has always meddled in there with giving them aid or coming in to help, quote unquote, but not actually helping. So they feel like they are better off without any U.S. intervention. And I think we should respect that, because obviously, look at them. Like, you know what I mean? So this past Friday, it was the birthday of the American Legion. So, as some of you might know, I'm the commander of American Legion Post 274 in Gouldsboro, Pennsylvania. So, the American Legion turned 105 on March 15th, and the first day was founded in 1919. That was when the first American Legion held caucus. It was held by members of the American Expeditionary Force convened in Paris. The American Legion was chartered by Congress in 1919 as a patriotic veterans organization. The focus was on service to veterans, service members, and communities. The Legion evolved from a group of war-weary veterans of World War I into the most influential nonprofit groups in the United States. So, shout out to the American Legion, and I'm happy that it has managed to stay around. If you guys are veterans or service members, or you guys are kids of vets or service members, join your local legions. Membership is super down in organizations like the American Legion and the VFW. Groups are having a hard time recruiting because younger members aren't joining the organizations and the older members are dying out. So, if you want to help out an amazing organization, go to your local Legion, grab a drink, grab some food, definitely join and become a member to help continue to support these wonderful organizations. So y'all remember, right, those crazy smash and grabs that were happening, right? Okay, so Michelle Mack allegedly oversaw a retail theft ring that stole $8 million in cosmetics from stores such as Ulta and Sephora. So who is this lady? This is a white lady from San Diego who had a mansion, okay, and was wealthy. And this involved her and her husband. So everybody was saying that all those crazy smash and grabs that were happening were, a bunch of black kids and ghetto kids. And come to find out, the couple were arrested along with 7 other people who allegedly participated in the thefts after an investigation by the state and federal agency and investigative teams from Sephora and Ulta. Like, it took a lot of investigating. It took a lot of different groups because she was flying people all over the United States. So it took a lot for them to kind of piece everything together, but also you got like a Sephora in Maine and then a Sephora in Texas, so all these groups had to come together and work together. So the arrest comes as lawmakers and officials have pledged to crack down on retail theft. So major companies from Walgreens to Ulta to Walmart have said that thefts are rising and they're cutting into their profit margins. So, while high-profile smash and grab robberies in California have made headlines nationwide, and people have been saying that that was the reason that a lot of these stores are closing. A couple weeks ago on an episode, I had talked about how that the extent of the actual impact was actually unclear, and they believe a lot of numbers and stories were very inflated, and that retailers have been exaggerating the effects of the theft to the company, because a lot of these companies out here have been making record profits off of us and have been rising costs across every industry and putting those costs on us, the consumer, and then saying that, the reason we're doing this is because of theft. So that might not be accurate. But what I was accurate was that this white lady had a whole little army of people. And I'm talking about a lot of people that she was flying to different states, to different stores, okay? They were going in there as a group, running through, stealing a bunch of stuff, and then they were mailing whatever they got. They were mailing it back to California, okay? Then in California, they would sell it on Amazon and make millions of dollars. And in Michelle Mac's house, they had basically a whole little store and like storage unit in there. And their garage was filled with all these products from Ulta and Sephora. It was insane that she was able to do this. And do you know why she was able to do this? Well, I'll tell you why. Because she's not the one who they're looking for when it's coming to retail theft. Her little cohort of thieves that she had weren't the typical thieves that they were looking for. They follow around people that look like me when I'm in a store, but they're not following around Michelle Mac when she's in a store because they're assuming that I'm going to steal something when she was really the one that was stealing everything. That story is so crazy, y'all. Like, she really had a little army of thievery going on, and it was to the point where they were making enough money that they were like, and she was wealthy, that she was able to fly people to go steal. That's crazy. So there are people who are South African, but they're also Israeli, and they have dual citizenship. And so obviously I've been giving a lot of updates on the Israel-Hamas war. And one of the things that I saw that was super interesting was that South Africa vows to arrest dual citizens who serve in the Israeli army, because they feel like they are committing genocide and they are committing war crimes. And they said the second you come back here, you're going to be arrested and put on trial, which is wow. South Africa lead, they took the lead and they'll prosecute their own citizens. Campaigns are underway to push several other governments to do the same thing. Most notably France, because they got a lot of people that went over there to kill Palestinians. So the South African government cites allegations of war crimes that have been leveled against Israel by the UN and by others. So that is really, really just really crazy. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about and ask you the question, like, have you guys seen this? It is the gentrification of sports and hobbies. So when I was growing up, there were neighborhood sports that you could play, soccer, softball, basketball, all of these things. And they were either free or very cheap. Also, a lot of teams were sponsored by like local stores, local organizations, hospitals, groups, and different things. So like, either you paid a small amount for your uniform and they gave you your equipment, or it was completely free, right? Well, now, even here, they still have neighborhood sports like that, but they've gotten so expensive that a lot of people, regular, smuggler, everyday people, can't afford them. They can't afford to put their kids in these sports. And a lot of them cost money, and you have to pay for the equipment. You need to have your own equipment. So it's not like you can just put your kid in baseball and they'll say, hey, we have a bat and a glove. Like, you have to come with all that. You have to pay for your uniforms and, whatever safety equipment and stuff you need. And so it's really pricing people out. And I hear about that a lot here in Scranton. And even in the school system. So if you went to a nicer school, they normally would provide you with free things so that you could play sports. But every school doesn't have that. So what I mean is when I went to high school, and when I went to high school up here, all of our uniforms were covered. All of our sporting equipment was covered. Like, we didn't have to come out of pocket for things for school, right? And I believe my Letterman was also covered, and I got that, and I didn't pay for that. But I had went to another school previously, and we had to pay for all of our stuff. You know, if for the uniforms, for Lettermans, for anything, like, you basically had to pay for that. So that also would price a lot of families out of athletics in school because they wouldn't be able to afford it, especially if you have multiple kids. So you're paying for multiple kids. And I'd come across someone talking about the gentrification of sports. And, you know, it really made me think that this is really what we're doing. Even in things like, you know, gymnastics. My daughter is in art class, and the cost of her art class has gone up significantly in the past 5 years, which has when she was involved in it. And I know that products have gone up. I know that everything has gone up as far as supplies go and everything like that. But it's just wild that, you know, you're paying $280 for your kid to be able to go and you know, hone their skill and things like that. And everybody can't afford that. Gymnastics, you know, dance. Jacqueline was in dance. And her dance classes actually was pretty cheap. But the issue was the uniforms and everything that she needed was so expensive. So, like, you know, buying 3 different pairs of dance shoes, buying the costumes and the tights, and all of that was super expensive. And especially for maybe the next recital, they're not even going to wear those costumes. They're going to have completely different costumes. So there's a lot of people who are not able to participate in extracurricular activities, neighborhood sports, or dance or art or gymnastics or anything like that, you know. And then to top it off, there aren't as many neighborhood sports as there were before, which is sad as well. So I know that here in this area, there did used to be more, but there aren't as many as there were. And then the ones that are left are expensive, you know? So I don't know. I don't have a solution to that, guys. Okay. But that is just something to think about. Let me know if that's happening in your area. And if you've seen it. And I don't know, maybe we'll come up with a solution because we got to do better. As an athlete, for me, like, playing sports my whole life, you know, it molded me into the person I am today. And I want my daughter to be able to participate in as many things as she could. And I was able to do multiple sports at the same time because the cost factor wasn't really involved in that. So we will take a short break and be right back. 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in a VA is a short story about my time in the Veterans Affairs Hospital on a voluntary 72-hour hold. I was falling down a rabbit hole and I could no longer see the light or a way out. I reached out to my VA therapist to discuss my crippling depression and anxiety. This journey through involuntary hold was marked by humiliation, broken promises, and a profound sense of vulnerability. My path towards seeking help was extremely challenging. Despite the setbacks faced, I hope my journey will lead other veterans and anyone else facing mental health issues to the care and the support that they might desperately need. 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in a VA is available on Amazon in paperback and on Amazon Kindle. Welcome back. So I have not really spoken on the conversation of trans athletes being in sports. And the reason I didn't speak on it is because I wasn't really sure how I felt about it, and I couldn't really figure out how to put whatever I was thinking into words. But I was scrolling and I came across this lawsuit about trans athletes being in sports. So this is about trans women playing in female sports. So current and former college athletes sue the NCAA alleging Title IX violation over the new transgender policy. More than a dozen current and former collegiate female athletes filed a lawsuit with the U.S. District Court in Georgia, alleging that the NCAA serially violated Title IX in 2022 by purposely adopting and amending policies. And these policies were to allow transgender swimmer Leah Thomas to compete with the UPenn women's swim team during NCAA competitions. So this has been happening across the sports world, not just in the U.S., but also all over the place. But specifically in the U.S., this has become a hot topic and a serious conversation. The reason I actually came across this because I stumbled across high schools that had played against a team with a trans athlete, and allegedly they injured 3 of the girls on the opposing team and ended up having to forfeit the game. And again, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it because I am not transphobic. You know, I believe that trans women are women and that they can do whatever they want to do. You know, I support you. I love you. Live in your truth. But what I realized is I had a question. My question is, why or what is the reasoning behind transitioning and then joining a sport? And I think that's kind of what the question was for me. And I want to know what the answer is. Being born male gives you advantages over other athletes just due to being physically, and I'm talking physically and not like biologically, being taller, stronger, faster, having more upper body strength. That doesn't take away from the way that you identify, and it doesn't take away from like who you are as a person. And I actually have a girl that I know here in this area who is a trans woman, and she went on to play collegiate, I think it was field hockey. And I remember watching kind of her journey online, because I don't believe I really know her personally. Watching her journey online and how she was so welcomed by her school and by her team and loved, and how like her experience was beautiful and so positive. And I believe maybe at one point she might have became the captain. And, you know, there's pictures of her playing in different things. And I will say that she was basically around the same size of everyone else. And so I wonder if for me, it's more of like the size of the person or something. I don't know. And I'm saying this with like a question. You know, I was an athlete my whole life, and I grew up playing basketball and every sport. And there was even, we had co-ed teams. Like I played co-ed soccer, and different things. But when I'm playing against biological males is unequal, and was always unequal because they were bigger and stronger than us. When I was in high school, we used to play basketball during our lunch period, and I was the only girl that played. and playing against them, mind you, I was the tallest person on my girls' basketball team, and I was probably about 5'7" at this point when I was in like my junior year. And the guys were easily 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. And I was 5'7", probably 125, maybe 135. And if one of them had decided that, hey, I'm going to live in my truth now, like, I'm going to be who I am, I'm going to transition, and they would have then played on the girls' team, like, they would have just destroyed everyone that we played against. And it wouldn't have been fair, you know? And so for me, another question is the point to live in your truth, or is the point to be able to, like, dominate a sport? And I don't know what the answer is, because also as an athlete, being able to play sports literally gave me life. You know, that was I got good grades, and part of the reason why was because I knew I had to because of sports, you know, and so it was my favorite thing in the whole entire world. So I'm not going to sit here and act like it's some frivolous thing. You know what I mean? Because it's not. And I think being an athlete is the same as, like, being a musician or whatever. And I don't know what the right answer is. I've heard somebody talk about having, like, a separate sports league for trans athletes. But that kind of reminded me of the whole separate but equal thing, which wasn't actually equal. And that didn't work. And I think that's a terrible idea. And also, like, that wouldn't, you know what I mean? I don't know. That kind of gives me the ick. But I don't know necessarily what the answer is. And we're going to see more of these issues with this lawsuit. Like I said, I mentioned that one high school. There was another high school where the team forfeited before even playing because the other school had 6 trans women on the high school team. And due to them being extremely bigger than the other team, they forfeited the game. You know, and so we're going to see these things happening. They're going to keep happening. And I think that it is important to have these conversations in a non-transphobic way. And the reason we haven't been able to have honest conversations like this is because people get real transphobic. And then it's like, that's not the point of the conversation. And we're not hating anybody, and we're not telling anybody to not be who they are, you know? Because the thing is, and this is really specific to women's sports. So if you think about Michael Phelps, right? When he was swimming, he had an advantage, which they called a gift. Something about, like, the lactic acid in his muscles, and he didn't produce as much as other people. And they talked about it as a gift, and whenever it was always a good thing, right? But when you talked about people like Castor, who her last name is Semyana, I believe, okay? She is the woman from South Africa. I loved track and field, who went through hell because they imposed testosterone limits on female athletes. So she's a 2-time Olympic champion, Castor. They told her she had to take testosterone reducing medication in order to compete because she naturally produced more testosterone than other women. She's a woman. Full-blown biological, right? And her body naturally produced more testosterone, which made her muscles bigger, her stronger, and she killed it, right? They didn't look at what she had as a gift. They said that it was basically cheating. And it wasn't fair to the other athletes that she was running against. There was other female athletes who wouldn't want to run against her or who lost and then said that it was unfair that they lost. Now, could race play a part in this? Absolutely, because Black women are seen as more masculine, bigger muscle tone and different things than white women. And that's, across the board. I think that we definitely have different, like, bodily structures, muscle structures. And so I definitely do think that plays a part in it. But like I said, Michael Phelps was looked at as like, oh my gosh, this is a gift. Like, he was born to swim. But Castor, it wasn't looked at like that. It was looked at like, oh, she's cheating and she has an unfair advantage over the other women in the sport. So when you even take out kind of like the trans part of the conversation, this has still been an issue in women's sports with women who don't traditionally fit into kind of like the very dainty female athlete. Katie Ledecky, who was a swimmer who was killing it, right, for the U.S. Olympic team. And her body structure is, I would say, stereotypically more masculine. Girl could beat you up, right? She is broad shoulders and definitely like toned and big chest muscles, right? So people were saying that she had an unfair advantage, okay? And they needed to test her to see if she had too much testosterone, right? There was times that Castor would be before a meet and people wanted to check in her pants, okay? In her pants, her genitals, to verify that she actually was a woman and was able to play that sport. So it has been a conversation and it's going to continue, but I'm just curious to see, what are they going to do in high schools, because it's becoming an issue and maybe even becoming a safety issue. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Again, this is coming from a place of love and just a place of curiosity. There's no hate over here or anything like that, and that's why it's hard for us to have a conversation like this, because the crazy people that want to, they're full of hate and we don't have time for that. All right. So I want to remind you again that if you live in the NEPA area, join us to learn more and hear excerpts from talented authors from the greater Scranton area. Local author reading will be held Wednesday, April 10th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And it is at the Albright Memorial Library. That's on 500 Vine Street in Scranton. I will be there reading an excerpt from my book, 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in a VA. You can find my book on Amazon, and it's available in paperback and also in Amazon Kindle. And we will chat soon.